You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
Hello? Hello? Look, who is this?
Stop. Oh, God.
What do you want? Why are you doing this?
Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to dissect horror films, both old and new. And we're going to delve into a movie that was released 45 years ago this year and back in 1974. And it's getting a bit of a resurgence of late thanks to the Blumhouse team, who are releasing a remake pretty much this week if we get the recording of this podcast out in time. And of the movie in question, of course, is Black Christmas. And pretty much was the pioneer of slasher films, or early slasher films, and has kind of spawned a lot of inspiration from films along the way. Chief among them was Halloween, a few years after Black Christmas came out. Before we kind of delve into that and dissect and discuss, I should introduce myself. I am the host of the podcast. My name is Saul Murte, and joining me for the podcast chair next to me is Mr. Richard Lovegrove. Welcome aboard, Richard.
Hello, good to be aboard. And this podcast is coming from the house.
Inside the house?
Yes. I'm right next to you.
Oh, hello.
Hello. I didn't see you there.
Good to have you back on board for the podcast sessions, mate.
Anytime.
So, before we kind of get into that, and obviously kind of leveraged it by saying like it pretty much kind of set the benchmark for a lot of horror films to follow, particularly of the slasher genre.
Oh, yeah. It was the OG originator of a lot of things.
The OG. So how familiar were you of this movie, and how recently had you seen it for the first time?
I knew nothing of it. I hadn't seen of it. I hadn't heard of it. But my partner Kelsey had seen it a couple of years ago.
Oh, sweet.
And she apparently said in her notes, rated it 8 out of 10. So when we went to see it again, she was like, "Oh, must have been good." Like, really good. Yeah, but instant start watching it, I was like, "Oh, Superman references and
yes.
all of this." But it was great. It grabbed you straight from the beginning because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know what the sort of like level of budget it was going to be. I knew about the remake that was coming up soon, but haven't seen anything about that or didn't know anything about the concept, so I wasn't really
cool
into it. But,
so you were coming at it. Yeah, so you were coming at it with pretty fresh eyes, so to speak, and and you watched it pretty recently in time for the podcast. So
only a couple of days ago,
yeah, sweet. So obviously, like without kind of giving your kind of full appraisal or lack thereof, what was your knee-jerk reaction after watching it? Did you kind of get a good vibe from it?
I loved it. I loved the how it ended and how the options were there for you to fill in blanks to your own completion. Didn't want to give spoilers away, but the cinematography in it seems like it's always leading you down the path of an objective sort of storyline, really, because you start off from the perspective of the antagonist, who we never find out who it is, and that's fantastic.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
But you still have a payoff and the conventional, bad guy trope of the jilted ex-lover or whatever, coming in and having that sitting down on the porch outside that beautiful, magnificent house.
Yes.
Or dorm or whatever it was. But then to have also at the end where, she's just still umming and ahhing, because she's still passed out. Everybody else is out of the house, but it scans to all the rooms of the ones that you're sort of going, I don't know, it gave us a sense of peace and order where things were sort of okay, after the death of the Sherry lady, there was a moment of panic. And I think that's really the only unjustified sense of panic that we sort of got from him. He was upset about something, but it seemed like that she would just got in the way. He was sort of ready with a booby trap sort of thing.
I think that was it. Yeah, it was, you're right. It was that kind of impending panic about this person coming into their world and interrupting things, because it was almost like the woman the early woman that he killed, it was almost like he'd set her up as a bit of I don't know, it was more of like a loving
trophy.
It was, and it was almost like she was, by her entering the attic space, she was shattering that illusion for him.
It was an intruder,
it was interesting. And it was the other thing that struck me, and I know we're jumping around a little bit, and we will come back to the plot line, but that end bit that you were talking about, where Olivia Hussey's character is kind of lying in bed, and all the cops are slowly filtering out of the space, and we're starting to have those kind of shots, kind of panned, like you said, the shots of each of the rooms now empty. That kind of struck me as very similar to Michelangelo Antonioni, Italian director, who used to do that. He in his films, at the end of his films, because we've gone on a journey with these characters that he introduces, and then all that's left of their story are the places that they resided in. And it's like echoes of the past without the characters being there. So our memories still hang on in that place. And I felt like that was hanging in the air a little bit with the rooms that were broadcast within, or projected, I should say, in the at the climax of that film. Which I thought was kind of a nice touch, because it kind of gave that sense of eeriness to it as well.
Absolutely, exactly, because from that point of view, we were just discussing it after we had seen it, saying, well, what's the resolution there? And I was like, you could take it from many angles, where it's halfway through, or there could be another half an hour of a film that could have a final whatever, if you were to reveal or do whatever. It actually, in that sense, reminds me of The Boy, a recent film with the girl from
Lauren Cohen, is it?
Yes. Lauren Cohen. Yes, I think she's Australian or New Zealand actor.
Oh, right.
But a great film in that, but similar sort of concept. That and what was it, Open House, which I saw.
See, I've not seen that, and that's got panned, but I've not seen it.
Oh yeah, has it?
Yeah, and which turned me off a little bit. Yeah,
it's the sort of thing that, towards the end, it's unsettling enough that it just really resonated and make me think about it afterwards. And I do love that about certain films. That if you can remember, if it can get stuck in your head for whatever reason, it's special. But it has a similar sort of premise. But there's so many different ways that ending can go. As in, there's still more to go. He's going to continue, or he's just a guy who needed a place to stay, and he's got his trophy, and he's, I don't know, maybe he wants those rooms empty. He wants to keep them empty. There's a lot of different justifications. But from that too, you were still going, you didn't know whether or not whose side you should be on.
Yes.
And even from the introduction, that's why I thought that the cop character, who's the lieutenant, he was the only good cop in there, and an actor who's been in every film.
John Saxon. Come on, let's give the guy the name. That John Saxon he's an icon.
Yes, exactly. He was
Enter the Dragon and
The Star Is Born. A Star Is Born, the original.
Yes.
Yeah, as a kid, he was a child actor. I remembered him from, I think, a lot of smaller roles, as similar sort of roles. But once I saw him, it was again, calming. It was sort of it's legit.
He kind of gave that grounding thing. Yeah,
I feel safe.
We're going to mention that he obviously played the iconic role of Nancy's dad in the Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street series as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He was in Nightmare as well. I think the later one. He's in a film or something coming out this year, which he's playing himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We looked him up, and it's like a film where everyone is playing themselves, but a lot of big names. Cool. It's him coming through there as well. You've got this idea of going the Nash character and the cops being not corrupt, but just incompetent, buffoonery going on there.
Yeah.
Exactly. The resolution is even from when the guy faints at the end, and the father of the girl who was first murdered.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. He drops off the planet a little bit halfway sort of through the film, and I was hoping it was going to go to that side plot which the lieutenant ends up going on.
Yes.
But because he sort of disappears for a little bit, then comes back at the end, and then faints.
Yes,
right
that's right. Yeah, it just gets reintroduced just to faint.
Yeah. It does to like, but because there's also that like peak just before it. It's like, oh, there's something else. There's busyness. It wasn't just everyone walks out. It was just like he's fainted. It's almost like he's relaxed with the situation. It's another calming breath of air. Cinematography wise as well, I love films, and especially horror films, that can take the time to pan through an entire room or just to show nothing and catch the end of an action where he's dragging her from one room to the other. You see the feet go across, and then you see the door close, I think, and you hear the whole sound. Brilliant. The death with the hook going in the face, she gets pulled up, and slightly comical, but if your mind stretches the imagination to justify why that's happened, coupled with the gurgling noises, I mean, it was a traumatic death. And didn't need to see anything. I thought, brilliant. Brilliant little film. I loved it.
yeah. Well, okay. So look, on that note, let's start kind of, I guess, dissecting this film and going through the plot narrative, as it were. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Scalpel.
Oh, hello.
Mm-hmm. I'll get the clamps.
Matron, put it away.
Here's the matron, please.
But okay, so like, I mean, the opening scene in itself has become such a typical horror movie trope where you see from the killer's POV. As they're climbing up into the sorority house, like he comes up into the attic, so he's already kind of like an intruder coming into the space and setting up what would be his camp within that house, which, as you said, is which is a sorority house, as we said. So I just found that kind of really when I forgot to say that this was. I've only watched it for the first time recently as well. So, like, to me, it was one of those ones that always evaded me, and I never got around to watching it. And when this moment happened, I was just like, "Oh my god!" Like, this is like so. I can see where a lot of movies already kind of got inspiration from, and I don't know whether it was the first time a POV was used in a horror movie to this degree, but I just thought, "Oh my god!" I can already see where people have lifted from this from the get-go. It did strike me though, like once the movie kind of completed, I did kind of wonder why he chose that sorority house. What was it that drew him to that? Which would be something that I'd be kind of interested. I mean, you and I obviously have studied drama and characters and things like that fascinate me about, you know, what is it that draws somebody to a place, or, you know, to me, it didn't feel random. It felt like there was a reason he was going into that space.
Exactly. Well, that could be even an entirely different series dissecting, like, you know, unknown killers and who they were purely from the film and what you've seen.
Yes.
And given justification for, but the phone calls alone have a lot of information. And once we hear about the 13-year-old murder, that sound on the phone call seems to be reminiscent of what could be that, if it's a current or if it's that or if it's a recording or whatever. But that alone, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there. I've just looked them up at the moment saying the ending explained, and the character of the name being mentioned on the phone call being Billy.
Yes.
Who the whole time I was going Billy because I was trying to keep track of a lot of the characters' names.
Yeah, same. There's a lot of characters. There are a lot of characters.
Exactly, yeah, and just giving them sort of other names. But it was easy when you have Lois Lane in the early days of her drinking.
Yes,
yeah. Feeding it to kids as well. Oh, the 70s was a different time, wasn't it?
So it was.
So much. It was like there's a 70s version of Macbeth, just with complete nudity. I mean, great stuff.
That incident, you're talking about the Roman Polanski one, yeah. So
probably.
But that was we had to watch that at school. That one, funnily enough.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting sideways digression.
Yes. But within that, exactly, like, because you could probably build. There's enough justification given in the horrific moments to go. This is who this personality is. Who this. We know where he is.
Yeah.
And we know he's male because of, I don't know, hands, grunts, and. don't know, whatever. But yeah, you get the sense of, is he just there to terrorize, or like, is it someone in the house? Is it the house itself?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
the establishment? I mean, you could also go from a the philosophical view of the story being told around that character who is, fails the recital and then destroys the piano. And
that's right. He was an interesting character in himself, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like he clearly didn't feel like he was the killer to me.
No.
He had a very good motive anyway. Not motive. He had a very good alibi.
Yes, exactly. It felt like he wasn't, from what we saw.
Yeah. He was
To,
definitely an unhinged man. He was just, interesting.
yeah. Exactly. And the 70s being the 70s, thinking that he can do that. But I love it too at the end, the idea of just smashing up in a window going, hello? It's great. He's breaking and entering, yet obviously seeing that your girlfriend is terrorized and you've had a fight before, so maybe she doesn't want to talk to you and looks like she's got a weapon. Yeah. No. But I loved that. As in his character from the beginning, even from the first phone call where we hear him, he's not likable. But it doesn't set him up as the asshole. It's enough to sort of make you almost root for him, because we the audience know he's not, because we've seen POV.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, but again, there's enough to leeway which can lend it to saying that he was able to do certain things. Glad as well, just to point out what was at the beginning, that one of the first girls to get murdered has a cat, and the cat doesn't die. I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that was Claude, or whatever the cat's name was.
Yeah, that's right. She's going off ahead, swearing. Oh, God damn it. But that was the perfect introduction of something that was the white cat, like a very pure essence thing. Like, even if you go the dark Christmas white cat, as in the homages of it being unlucky. Sound as well played a big thing in the film as well. Yeah. Was he making noises of the cat at certain times and he was just a good mimic, or was it the cat itself? Because even towards the end of the film, we don't even see it.
No, that's right, and that's something that I have to kind of say about the 1970s, because it was the experimental year of filmmaking, and that's why a lot of films gained recognition, even and still stand strong today, because filmmakers were given that kind of room to experiment. Yeah. But something that I really liked, and coming from somebody that studied sound design, is that I love sound in films and audio in films, and 70s has that certain something about it where, like you said, with the audio that they were playing with in this with the cat, but also the phone calls themselves that were being made, and these regurgitated kind of gurgles, and just made it that kind of really kind of, he was babbling, wasn't he, this character? He was never really making sense.
No, but focused and exactly. What was this? The voice of somebody else? Is it him just mimicking and that torn up about it?
Yeah.
And the first phone call, I even thought, was it the same guy in the house? I was even thinking, is it going to be bigger than that? I didn't know where anything was going to go.
Yeah.
And with the introduction of so many people in that house. But also, too, it being the 70s, that first phone call and the C-bomb just getting dropped. Yeah. Can you imagine watching this on something where they censor it and it's just the beeps, all that, and it's just
yeah.
But how did they not hang up? I mean,
I know, just keep listening, going, what?
Yeah, and then keep them on the phone. And the manual tracking of that was great. I was lost for a little bit of a moment, and I was going, why is he running around? And he's like, that's how they track it back then. Oh, yeah, of course.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, so I'm going to say something here as well, because I was just reading about apparently there was a bit of a backstory for the killer as well. So, his name was apparently Billy. And the other name that gets bandied around, you can hear the name Agnes that's mentioned in conversations. And apparently, according to the director, he said there was a bit of subtle logic to the phone calls. He said Billy himself was abusive and abused his little sister, and apparently Billy was also abused. he mentioned that Billy probably killed his parents. He was probably locked up. He probably locked up his sister in a basement for 5 or 6 years. And then he said, I think she kind of escaped at some point, and it's kind of like him kind of constantly searching for her. And he said that Billy doesn't like girls. He's got this real hatred for girls. But on the flip side of that is that Agnes doesn't like boys. So like there's this kind of yin and yang kind of thing going on between the two characters. So there was obviously like a little bit like that he kind of thought about with that. There is like a 2006 remake of this that kind of came out already, which I kind of vaguely remember something kind of happening, but apparently it wasn't. It kind of got a little bit forgotten about. It didn't really kind of make too much of a mark, but yeah, which kind of surprised me because I was like, oh, never realized that had happened.
Yeah, I'm surprised even to hear about the 2006 one.
Yeah, it had what's her name, Mary Elizabeth Winstead in it, and what was that? The young girl's name that was in Party of Five, the young sister, Lacey Chabert. She was in it too, and I want to say Katie Cassidy was in it as well. But I have to kind of look that up, so I apologise if I've gotten those wrong. But yeah, I do remember watching it way back, but never really got the connection between them. Yes. So we have the Billy character. He climbs in through the into the attic, and the tenants are kind of having a Christmas party just before they kind of all leave, or some of them are planning to leave for their Christmas break. We meet one of the girls called Jess, and this is where I'm going to need to kind of make sure so Jess is the Olivia Hussey character.
Yes, Olivia Hussey's Jess, yeah.
But she's the one that tends to be the one that picks up the phone. Does that happen at sororities? Is there like a go-to person that hey Jess, you're the phone girl, you pick it up?
Yeah, I've never lived in a sorority, and I didn't know that it was a place that you had an older lady who was like a caretaker, or she owned the building. I wasn't sure exactly, but I thought
she owned the building. But yeah, Mrs. McHenry. Yeah,
because I thought it was more a landlord sort of situation. But exactly. Yeah, but it's established very early on, even from that first shot. The other part about it, I love it is when films establish geography and architecture. So like Jurassic World was, I love ripping that apart because of just certain shots and you're going, this is clearly this mountain there. How did they get all the way around here? Why? It's great. So in that opening shot, you understand there's a ladder that comes down. You know how his access is, how it's closed off from the rest of the room, but it's still so easy to get to everyone.
Yeah.
And even that phone, like he can watch them on that phone call, possibly even whilst making a phone call. Who knows? But yeah, and from that, then you get the girls going over to getting a phone call. I thought it was Barb first, that sort of.
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, but I'm not too sure. I can't remember.
That's what's throwing me. So Barb is Barb Lois Lane.
Bob's yeah,
Margot Kidder, yeah.
Yes, drunk Lois.
Drunk Lois, and being very sassy and kind of rebellious.
Yes,
against the regime. So anyway, look, they answer the phone call. This is where they get the first kind of real kind of obscene call. It's, all they kind of, as we said, this garbled kind of conversation. And it's suggested.
Lots of threats of cunnilingus.
Yes, that's right.
Until I think it was Barb takes over and starts giving some back. And
yes, that's right.
Stuff. And he changes his tone and he says, I'm going to kill you. He completely just goes from, as you said, gargling noises and frantic to then just going, I'm going to kill you. And hangs up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Takes another drink.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fine Chianti. So look, so we kind of there's a lot of stuff going on at this point, and it is a bit disorientating. but yeah, we get the idea that there's kind of hinted that this isn't the first time, not necessarily the first time that they've been called, but there's stuff that's been happening in the area where people have been getting these kind of weird phone calls. Yeah, so and then we get this kind of altercation between Barb and Claire, because I think Claire's then the one that says that you should have incited him that way. He could be a rapist for all we know. And then Claire then starts packing. She goes up to her bedroom to kind of pack because she's actually going to be leaving for the Christmas break. And that's when we get the kind of very kind of, again, a very horror trope where she feels like she's being watched. She thinks there's somebody in the closet. She goes in, and at which point the guy, we don't really ever see him, but he comes out and he basically shoves the plastic dress bag over her head and suffocates her, and then moves her up into the attic.
And keeps her in that sort of like porcelain sort of like the plastic cover across her face. In that moment as well, when he's standing behind the thing, it cuts into a mid shot on where he's standing, and I was like, I was hoping it wasn't. It was either going to stay in a mid shot the whole time, or it was going to stay in that long shot, just so you got that hint of something, just for a rewatch. But it's the OG of it. But also too, the makeup and styling of the Claire. I don't know if it's a puppet or if it was an actress, because the way they put the thing in the mouth as well, you just cut a hole right in the base there. She can just be breathing through her mouth the whole time. I'm really impressed by that.
I was too. I was looking at that going, that's really interesting. I don't know about you, but because also that she was in that kind of plastic, it kind of, I'm talking about the shots later on where she's, up in the attic. But it kind of gave her that look of being almost like a mannequin, almost like a doll. Yeah. Because she was kind of wrapped in that plastic and obviously frozen stiff. And it kind of added to her being his plaything a lot more, I felt, with it as far as an image is concerned. And that really struck with me. Yeah, absolutely. The imagery as well of her at that top window, and which I laughed the first time going, she's right next to, it's so obvious. But then you see the outside shot, at the end, and you go, it pulls away from the perspective of the window. And, you wouldn't notice that at all. No. You can't even see it from the far back. That's right. But I was even wondering how long rigor mortis sets in, and how long the film, how long that body is up there under a plastic bag, because what is it? You're going to get a lot of moisture and heat build up underneath that. It's not going to look pretty for too long. I had the same thing. I got a bit thrown with the timeline of this because it felt like it was over a period of time, but I think it's only meant to be over a couple of days that all this happens. So it's actually kind of not. It's a short time frame that everything kind of comes about, but it does feel like maybe it's because of the pace of the movie. It's got that very kind of 70s, we're going to shoot every single shot possible going on with it. So the length of it does kind of pan out a lot. Or feels like it does. Whereas, that'll be what'll be interesting to see with the Blumhouse version that's coming out. Obviously, because that'll be kind of, the pace of it will be a lot more sped up. There'll be a lot more kind of tension, kind of riddled stuff, no doubt, to suit the modern cinema-going audience. But it was just kind of interesting, I felt. Then we get we get the introduction of a bit of a comedy moment here, because we get the Mr. Harrison, her dad, waiting to pick her up at the. Is he at a station? I think he's at a station or.
Yeah, he's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, he's kind of waiting for her anyway, and then he gets the whole snowball in the face moment, just to kind of break the ice. No pun intended. And he's like this kind of quirky, kind of very shove a pole up your ass, kind of rigid, guy. And he basically goes to kind of find out where his daughter is. He turns up at the sorority house where he meets the Mrs. McHenry character, who we have already established at this point is an alcoholic.
And hides sherry everywhere, in the
Yeah,
toilet.
anyway, wherever you can. Yeah, and she kind of reminded me a little bit. I don't know how familiar you are, Richard, with like some of the old school Universal horror films where there was always like that kind of old crone kind of lady that was kind of that provided a bit of. She was always a bit quirky, like the comic relief kind of thing. And it struck me that was very similar to that kind of character that this Miss McHenry was playing.
I got a distinct vibe of it's a film Murder by Death, I think it's called.
Yes.
It's about a whole bunch of detectives who have been called to a house by Truman Capote, or someone who is played by Truman Capote.
Yes.
And two of these people are, I can't remember her name, but it's an old lady in a wheelchair, and it's like a Miss Marple type character.
Yeah.
And she's the carer, but forgive me, I can't remember her name. I'll look it up right now.
That's all right.
But yeah, she's a very famous and amazing actress, and I got a distinct vibe of her.
Yeah, wow, okay.
But again, like even like what was it, Romeo and Juliet's the nurse, like as in those sort of
yes, exactly.
Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
She plays Elsa Lanchester in that. Oh no, sorry, her name is Elsa Lanchester, but she plays Jessica Marple in Murder by Death. Very famous. She's been in many other things. Yes, amazing actress. She was actually she was the Bride of Frankenstein. Holy crap!
Yeah, that's right.
The Bride of Frankenstein.
No, I know.
Now
I
look at a picture. Of course, she was.
Yeah,
that's right. I know her from That Darn Cat. In 1965.
Yeah. Cool.
Sorry, completely something. But yes, her role and character. I loved that comedic moment. There was the comedic moments with her hiding the sherry. Then there was the interaction of her calling out for the cat. And then there was the moment later on with the not necessarily with her character, but the guard that's coming around the watch.
Yes.
And they come in and knock on the door, and just that interaction was fantastic.
Yes, that's right.
A lot of levity.
Yeah, there was lots of moments like that. So this is where like we find out that Claire's obviously she finds out Claire's missing, and then we get that's right. Then we get the first introduction of Peter, which is Jesse's boyfriend guy, music student. And this is where we also get the reveal that she says that she's pregnant and she's planning to have an abortion, which kind of really upsets Peter, who wants to keep the baby. And that would have been quite controversial kind of conversation or scene to have at the time. I mean, it's still kind of taboo now, but even more so back then. So that was kind of, I found that kind of scene in it of itself interesting. And where it doesn't kind of keep to a normal horror trope is that obviously like that would allude to the fact that she's had sex, which would mean that was a big no-no. So interesting choice there, that she's our kind of lead heroine, as it were. So
okay. Yeah. It's not like the virginal.
Yeah. And then, like,
never seems the most pure.
Yes.
Now that Claire's gone.
No, and that's interesting too, isn't it? So, like, we do get the most pure one is the one that gets killed. Although she does have a boyfriend herself.
Yeah, well, we don't know. Well, exactly, like, the fact that we just literally know because she's saying she wants to have an abortion. But exactly that. But even from a horror movie standpoint as well, the subject matter of that, I like that being on a knife's edge now. Like, as in, because we had him established, he's obviously a little bit controlling. And things like this. But then to put such a harsh, fine point on it, and they're at such opposed points. And accusing each other of deciding things without them. So it was. I really liked it because it didn't seem like it was, there looked like a danger was there. It was more from a caring end. Yeah,
I agree. But
he's clearly got problems from that phone call.
yes, he did. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Because that's right. Because she talks to him earlier on, doesn't she? And she goes, "I want to talk to you in person." And he's like, "Why can't you tell me now?" No. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he rings her up crying later on in between the phone calls that they're getting from
that's right.
From Lenny, or what's his name? Billy.
Billy, yeah. Hey, Billy. Bye, Billy.
Oh, Billy.
So and then we kind of come back to Mr. Harrison, that whole scene with Mr. Harrison and Bob being drunk and being very not very kind of not using very choice words, considering like this girl's vanished and she's going, I bet you're all going to blame me and all this stuff.
Saying facts about turtles having sex for hours.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
days. That's right. Yeah,
and she used to the zoo. But so she kind of gets basically kind of sent to bed by, I think it's Janice is the other girl's name,
or is it Phyllis?
Or Phyllis? Oh, is it Phyllis? Yes, it's Phyllis. Sorry, you're right.
The one with the glasses.
Janice is Sorry, that's right. Sorry, Janice is. That's what comes up later on. So I'm jumping around. Phyllis, the one with the glasses. That's right. Basically tells her to fuck off to bed. But then they do learn that there's another girl that's disappeared called Janice. From while walking home from school. So that's where like a bit of a search party starts happening outside.
Yeah.
So Bob is basically sent to bed, and then we get Mr. Harrison and I think Chris is the boyfriend of Claire.
Yeah, the hockey player who wears that big coat.
Yeah, and I wanted to look him up because his face looked really familiar. Oh. I've seen him in something, and I'm gonna do that in the background while we're talking.
I don't know what happened to his character actually. At a certain point, I was waiting for him to come back and either have a heroic moment or or to be somehow in the bad guys' books.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of introduction of characters that sort of felt like it could have been condensed a little bit more, but I guess that's what makes this film probably, and films like this, more of a passion project where it's one vision.
Yes.
Exactly, and that's where you get these amazing like OG tropes that have now lasted the test of time, and we're getting annoyed at them and things like that. Where you'd have these long pans or like zooms and stuff like that, which build the tension, chucking jump scares in. I mean, it's ridiculous. But obviously from that, you might sacrifice a little bit of cohesion when you're going, okay, well, how do we make this appealing to everybody or understood to everybody? But it would also convert a point of view.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I've just kind of in the midst of all that while you were talking, I've just realised that he's the character. Chris is played by Art Hindle, he's a Canadian actor and turned director. But I know him from The Brood, which is the David Cronenberg film, which is what struck me. I was like, that's why I know his name. He's kind of like the lead male actor in that. But that's what made me go, oh, right, it's him. And he also was in that oh so famous Canadian-American teen sex comedy film, Porky's, as the character Ted. So I probably saw him from that as well. Which
takes place in college, universities. Tying it all in.
Swings in roundabouts.
Exactly.
So he's also like this kind of, I don't know, it seems weird, doesn't it? They're almost kind of congregating around near this park, and it's almost like a search party is going to set up, but they're all kind of huddled around, not really doing much. And Jess is there as well, and Phyllis, and
old man Wilkinson, or what his name is.
Yeah, and they're hoping that Claire will turn up too at this point. And then meanwhile, we have the Mrs. Mack, who's she's planning on leaving. Like she's setting up to kind of go. I'm not sure where, but she's leaving anyway. She's got a cab kind of waiting. And that's where we get the whole bit where she thinks she hears the cat up in the attic and she goes up to investigate. We get that whole scene where the killer is there holding that crane hook, waiting before he kind of swings it into her face, hanging and killing her in the process. So we get this
wrenched up. It's fantastic. But it was on a pulley, so it could be justified. He could have just pulled really quick.
Yes.
And then she was, like, comically, yoink!
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, great sound design on that moment.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So then we kind of come back, and this is where they do discover Jancy's body. This other. So she's not a character that we've seen before. She's the girl that we've learned has gone missing, and we kind of and they basically find her in the park. Obviously alluding to the fact that it was the killer that's done this. And so they all kind of go back home.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, right, well, job done. And I think it's Jess that goes back, and that's when. But some of the other people continue to search for Claire. And then we get another dodgy phone call, and that's where she decides to file a report to the police. And then Peter, boyfriend, turns up at the house.
That's right.
And he then kind of is trying to persuade her to marry her, basically, for the sake of the child.
Yes.
But she's like, "Fuck off, Peter! Told you once."
Exactly. I want a life, man.
Yeah.
Have a life in the kitchen. No.
Ooh, tumbleweed.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the 1970s views for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but is this before or after he's had his play as his recital?
That's after. I thought that was after. Yeah, he has that big whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, this is when they're in front of the piano having a chat.
No. This is after that. This is after
the house. Yep. Cool.
Yeah,
sorry.
this is the house. So yeah, I did jump ahead of that point. Yeah.
No, you're right. Yeah, because he has that terrible piano solo.
Yeah, and he kind of tries to channel Beethoven for a moment.
That was great. That was
aggressive chord action.
Yeah, it was hard to watch. It was awesome. Yeah,
and I'm gonna have to. I'll come back to it as well. But I've just tried. You just reminded me in that scene as well that we were just referring to with the piano recital. There's one of the guys that's watching him. His face looked really familiar, so I'm going to try and look that up as well.
Yeah,
that's just bugging me. I've seen him in something. I was like,
do it.
Who's that? Who's that guy?
Who's that guy? Where did he come from?
Ooh, who knows?
Grease 2 reference. Yeah.
Always slipping a bit of Grease 2. Right.
Yeah. Oh, love it. Reproduction.
I've lost Richard to the world of musicals.
He was already lost. It's got Shooter McGavin as the Kinnicky character. I mean, come on. Come on.
Good point. So from one horror musical to
so yeah, back in the house, and so that's what makes us think that he might have
turns up. He's in an emotional state, and this is where we get John Saxon arriving to bug the telephone, basically, because they want to bug because they keep getting these phone calls. And that's when he sees Peter and goes, he's a bit odd. And Peter leaves, and then we get this. There's a bit of a quiet, calm before the storm moment because we have the choir children turning up at the house, doing some carol singing, and this is where the killer takes his moment to slip into Barb's room. So Barb, obviously Lois Lane, the killer, still kind of semi-passed out upstairs, and he basically grabs a glass figurine and stabs her with it.
It's Death by Unicorn again.
Yeah.
It's a cabin in the woods. Like, maybe that's where they got, Also, too, there was another thing that we thought maybe Harrison Ford was a fan of this film because when Peter says, "I love you" on the phone, she says, "I know."
Ooh.
Yeah. And so, yeah, because it was just like, I wonder if Harrison like that, and they just improv that.
Yeah. Like, he just watched it that day.
He was in a very dark mood.
Yeah. He was like, I'm sick of running around the desert.
I know.
Oh no, it wouldn't be the desert for that one. Sorry.
But but yeah, exactly. So it sets him up as potentially something that we should be intrigued in. Peter character.
Yes. He's kind of becoming more red herring as we plow along.
And the coincidence Barb's death as well, with the choir, like, just hitting that moments where it's just like, oh, they can't hear it because of the which was fun. But even from the beginning, again with the sound design, there was carolers in the early part of the thing, and it was inside the house, and I was imagining one of these pans was going to pan past, like in Birdman or something like that, like people playing the music or singing, like a whole bunch of carols. But it was like, even from that, you knew from the sound it was a record.
Yes.
So that was playing, and then later on they do have carols, which is cool, awesome.
Yes, we love that. We love that bit. That was really cool.
Exactly. Another trope, this juxtaposition of innocent and
that was
awful.
full of it, man. So full of it. Ah, dear.
But yeah, now the killer makes Barb's room a little bit of at least for one more death, a base.
Yes,
because after
he's
this,
expanding outwards, isn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, he's taken up residence. He just wanted a room.
He just wanted a room. Yeah, I wonder if that was it. It's like, oh, this place looks good.
Yeah, it was a Goldilocks situation.
Yeah,
exactly. What was it? 3 people's. Yeah, exactly. So he went into one room and it was just like too hot, soft. Then it went too hard, and this one just right.
That's right. Yep. I love what you've done to the place.
Yeah, and 2 of them as well he got rid of because drunk.
Yes. Put it away.
Cats can't get drunk, so that's why the cats survive.
Yeah, that's right. Cats. What I really loved about the cat, and I can't remember what point it happened, but the bit where the cat starts licking the face of the girl, the Claire girl that's died in plastic, and I was just like, that's why cats are fucking vicious creatures.
Yeah,
they will eat you. They will eat you if you die. They will eat you.
I think most things that have to eat meat, if you're trapped in a place where there is meat to eat, was it the amount of old people who have dogs, chihuahuas, and they go, we found them 2 weeks later and they ate all of their ass. It's just because they were hungry. They had to eat. But yes, no, cats are evil, and that's why I love them.
Yeah. I love their cute little claws as they're scratching my eyeballs out.
But so after this, then Phyllis goes a trekking. And looking around.
She's all tricking. Yeah, she goes looking around. Why does she go around? Oh, does she? Oh, because she's like.
She look for Barb?
She goes to look for Barb. Maybe I can't remember now. Anyway, she goes looking, and that's right. She goes into the door, and then it slowly slams shut.
Yeah, she's like, whoa.
Oh, don't shut that! I left the key outside.
Yeah, traps a hair in the door. Ow!
Yeah. Oh, for God's sake!
Yes, her death is just an inconvenience. Ow! Oh gosh.
Oh, now I have to kill you.
Yes.
Yeah. I was snoozing.
Press the snooze button again.
So that's right. So she goes investigating. We don't actually see her death.
No, we don't see most of the deaths.
No, which is interesting as well, isn't it? Apart from obviously Barb's death.
Yeah, and the guy in the policeman in the car. That was probably the only moment where it was just like, that just looks like a piece of bubble gum.
Yeah.
On his neck. Like a scar there. It was just
you're right. Yeah, I just dropped that.
Yeah.
So you're right. So yeah, we have the whole kind of the Phyllis exchange moment happens, and then we get the phone call goes off again. Jess picks it up, and this is at the point I'm pretty sure this is the bit where it is alluded. When I watched this, I thought we were hearing Phyllis's death happening on the phone.
Yeah.
But this is where it does allude to the fact that he's flipping between 2 personalities, which is the Billy Agnes characters that I was telling about earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like he's jumping between the 2, so very psycho. And this is where they eventually do get her to keep him on the phone long enough to track that the phone calls are coming from
the house.
In the ass.
In the ass. In the ass. No, from the house.
The house. That's right.
That old horror movie.
That's right. That's right. And they go, quick, get to the house. Jess, what are you doing? Don't go upstairs. What? And he's like, is he watching?
That character of Sergeant Nash.
Yeah.
So good.
And then she's, but I like the bit where she's going, Barb, please answer me. Phyllis, talk.
Yeah.
And then she goes upstairs.
Yeah.
She arms herself with a poker. and that's where she goes into Barbara's room and she sees that Barbara and Phyllis are basically bloodied and maimed on the bed.
Yeah, in a pile.
And that's where we get the killer kind of looking through the crack between the doors, going, Billy, my name's
That was
Billy.
great.
I'm Billy. Yeah.
That was awesome. The idea of, but it was right next to her. I was surprised that was a cinematography they chose, because the idea of the reveal being like his eye there and then it just shifting focus would have been, whoa.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. It's that sort of thing. But then he just gets knocked with the door.
I love it. Yeah, she just shoves the door in. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's great. Ding, 10 points.
Yeah.
Exactly. But even with like Sergeant Nash as well, I love the character setup of him being a dropkick. By getting the fellatio as the
that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Which I thought, like, he didn't write down because it was just like, oh, ha ha.
Yes.
Yeah, but then it come down and goes, no, actually legitimate. Oh, it's something dirty, is it? And it's just like, another comedic moment. But again, with that lieutenant character was just fantastic. His realism, just setting that as a bar was fantastic.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So then to have him later on with this massive overacting moment of, no, don't do that, Jess. And again, the line, like I remember from cliched, repeats and parody has always been the calls are coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's maybe another moment where it's like the Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader moment of, Luke, I am your father. No, it's no, I am your father. Saying that. Instead of inside the house, it's no, the calls are coming from the house. Oh, get that, Sean McAuliffe. Next season of Talking About Your Gen Tag.
So, I'm wondering whether you're thinking of so there was a film in 1979 that came out that was called When a Stranger Calls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where there's a lady who is looking after the kids, a babysitter. And we get the whole thing, same kind of scenario where they kind of track the phone call, and the phone calls are from inside the house. And that may be the quote that you're thinking of.
That is the quote I'm thinking of, and that's probably makes more sense because I've heard of that film.
Yeah.
Until this podcast, I hadn't heard of this film. Having said that, I really enjoyed this, and so I should probably check out When Stranger Calls.
Yeah, you should do it. Carol Kane's in it. She's cool. I like her. And that also, strangely enough, that came out in 1979, so that just celebrated having 40 years this year as well.
Oh, beautiful.
And it has had a remake at some point, and I forget where, mid-2000s at some point.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard about that.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so then we get what's happening with our film. Losing the plot. So inside the house, she's got armed with a poker, goes upstairs and knocks the guy out with the door, and tries to kind of go down the stairs. He chases after her, trips her up. She tries to get out the front door. It's locked. So then she goes down into the basement and basically locks herself in there, and the guy's trying to get in, and he kind of disappears mysteriously. At which point... Yeah, go on.
Exactly. I was just going to say on that choreography of that moment, she goes into the cellar and she locks the little, bar thing across it. And then we hear him go, and then walk away from the door and the door close.
Yes.
So from me, my perspective, I was like, okay, what they're going to do is she's going to go back out, but he's going to be there.
Yes.
He's made the sound of the door and just sort of done it. But she doesn't even go back out the door.
No.
As in, now no longer an option. Now that it's locked, I mean, it's the same as the front door.
Yes.
Yeah, because then she starts slowly descending down the stairs.
Yes.
And you've got her then still got her poker there, but then there's someone outside. There's just like shadows in front of the little windows there, and she's like watching them and as following. And this is intercut with something else. What else is it intercut with?
Well, there's the police guys are kind of chasing.
Yes.
They're all the police kind of, John Saxon and all that are trying to round them up and go, hey, we got to get to that house. He's inside the house.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
What's going on. But then it's revealed that the person looking outside is actually Peter, the boyfriend.
Yes.
Muso guy. And he breaks open the window and he's going, it's me, Jess, it's me.
Yeah.
Don't you recognize me? And she says, let me see, I'm going to bludgeon you to death with my poker. And that was actually kind of a poker face.
Poker face.
So, which I really like this bit. I mean, we don't see her actually bludgeon him to death, but like, we only get the reveal from when the cops finally bust in through the doors, and then she's basically lying there, and it looks like she's dead at first, but then she moves, and we realise that she's basically killed this Peter guy out of sheer fright. And so we're still kind of at the point of like going, wait, hold on, are they suggesting it was Peter? And I like I said earlier, I wasn't buying that. I was like, no, it's not him. And then we get the whole point where, she's now in bed, and we get, the John Saxon detectives there, the dad of Claire's there, and they're kind of, and Jess is asleep. And then we kind of, they slowly, this guy, a random cop guy kind of pokes his head in and goes, we've checked all the rooms, and there's so many bodies. And that, when he says that, I'm kind of at that point thinking they've discovered all the bodies. But as we learn, as the police all kind of slowly filter out, and then they're protecting the house on the outside, leaving Jesse asleep, and we get the
reveal of the three rooms,
kind of camera shots, as you said from the beginning of the podcast,
and zoom into nothingness and up onto the little ladder.
Yeah, and it goes up the ladder, but we still see the body there of Claire sitting there and wrapped in plastic, which made me go, "What? They didn't fucking bother to check the attic?"
I know, right? I know. We've only just found out about the basement. I mean, we're asking a lot from this police crew. But yeah, exactly. I thought it was the exact same thing. So maybe the fainting of the father is a little bit more justified because they found two brutally murdered bodies in this house. One of the girls thinks they've got the guy, so maybe it's him just going, at least she's at peace or something like that. At least he's stopped. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. And their guards are down anyway. So, and we get the assumption that the killer climbs back down, and then you hear the phone going, and we are left unknown to what happens to Jess as the credits start rolling.
The fate of everyone.
Yeah, and everyone. Yeah, that's right. So there we go, and that's the end of that movie.
Well, I don't remember at the end the insinuation of him climbing back out, but
I think
again because
I think there's a POV point where we see something looking like it's coming down the attic. So we have the shot from the attic, and then it looks like something's coming down.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Because then we hear the phone call. Exactly.
That's right. Yeah. So alluding to that, he is still loose. Billy's still out there somewhere.
Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on Christmas.
Da, 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 da. So obviously, there's the pace of it, as I said, was quite slow, and there's a lot of build up and the tension kind of pocketed through.
I thought it was a slow burn. It was good.
Yeah, it was a nice slow burn. I was about to say that. To me, it was a nice slow burn. Would you recommend it? Do you think, considering obviously there's a remake coming out, would you recommend the original to anyone?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you've got the generational barrier, but I think that this is a film that, even from sitting there laughing perspective, you're still going to enjoy the film, even if you're going, 70s. But then there's some shocking moments in it which grabs you anyway, which those people probably wouldn't admit to them going, it was effective and I liked it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, probably they would. I think that most people who like horror films and respect film as an art form, I think would appreciate this and see it not only as the originator of a lot of movie tropes that have carried on for good purpose, but also from a cinematic point of view, the script point of view. I mean, the performances of all the actors seem strong. It seems passionate. It's a refreshing film to see after so many tropes where, like I was saying before, they're going to put a jump scare in. Oh wait, no, it's a first. As in this is an original film. So it was good because it could go anywhere. It did go most places and left it up so that you could continue going anywhere within it. and the whole time it was Christmas, so it was just fun and warm.
Lovely fuzzy feelings all round.
Exactly. All that death and mayhem.
So obviously, like I said at the beginning, like it did inspire Halloween, which kind of came out a couple of years after. And allegedly, Carpenter and the director Clark were working on a project at one point which didn't materialize. And apparently, at one point, Carpenter was a big fan of Black Christmas, and he did say to him, would he ever be interested in kind of going back and looking at Black Christmas, and what would it be like if he was to return, or what would the sequel look like? And apparently Clark did say like he would be the Billy character would be captured. He'd be in an institution of some kind, and that's where the movie will begin when the night he escapes back to town. And obviously that's very similar to the beginning of Halloween and how Michael Myers returns to Haddonfield and having the setting in on the day of Halloween itself. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
They just changed the holiday, didn't they?
Just changed the holiday, yeah. The other couple of things that I thought kind of interesting of what I picked up from it was that I forgot her name, Olivia Hussey, apparently said yes to the idea of playing in the film based on a psychic who basically said that she would star in a Canadian film that would make a lot of money. And at the time, she was being asked to be in this Canadian film. And so to her, she was like, oh, maybe that's
why she did it.
Yeah. And also, apparently, the role of Mrs. McHenry was going to be played by Betty Davis at one point.
Wow.
Which I'm not sure why it didn't fall through, why it fell through. I think she turned it down, but I think she was initially the person in mind to play that character.
That would have been great.
Yeah. And equally, Gilda Radner was also in there to play the role of Phyllis, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Which would have been a very different dynamic for that character.
She actually, speaking of Grease 2, reminded me of a character from that. I can't remember the character's name. She's the one who almost gets raped in the what is it?
Wait, hello.
Oh, wait, this is going to sound terrible. You have to edit this so it sounds okay. That's right. She's the one who almost gets raped in the bomb shelter. Oh, that still sounds bad. But it's true. See the film and you'll be able to see it. It's all done in song. It's fine if it's done in song. Well, no, I didn't.
My bomb shelter alone.
Exactly. What are these Grease movies about anyway?
Yeah.
But
it's been so long since I've seen that film. Grease.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Gilda Radner though. Big fan of Gilda Radner.
Yeah, I know. That's what when I saw that, I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And the last thing that I saw, which I'm probably gonna read a little bit of. So if I sound like I'm reading from something, it's because I am. But apparently the creepy phone call voices, it says here, were done upside down. So what does that mean? So the person that did the voices was actually standing on their head to compress the thorax to give it that kind of weird and spooky sound.
Oh, wow. Cool.
That's Nick Mancuso was the guy that played the voice of Billy in that.
Oh, wow. Billy, cool. So, yeah, he was actually condensing his vocal cords.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That's interesting. I like that. I like that a lot.
So that's kind of some cool stuff that come out of that. Initially, like when the film came out, it bombed in America initially. It was huge in Canada, home soil kind of stuff. But it took a little while for it to kind of gain momentum in the States and get that kind of bit of word going around.
That's a shame because I would have thought that at this time it would have been one of those ones that would have been happily accepted as it being one of the first slasher films. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And but it also, it was released around Christmas time. To tie in with the theme of the movie. But there was, and I think they had a lot of controversy, or a lot of people were kind of saying what a terrible time to release the film,
Well, the subject matter, the language in it, I mean, like the connotations of it,
Yeah.
It's incidental. It's around Christmas. I mean, you could remove the holiday from this film, and it wouldn't really matter. Bar the fact of an excuse for a holiday.
Yes.
As in they're leaving for some reason. But it's. But that's what I think. What makes a great film. I mean, you look at Shaun of the Dead, and it was a romantic comedy with zombies. You take the zombies out of it, it's still a great film.
Yes. Yes. That's
it's
right.
what makes some films fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you know. Is this based on a book or anything like that?
I don't know about that. I'll have a little look while we're chatting on that. I don't know, but interestingly, like when it got its TV release, which was would have been around like the 1978 at some point. It wasn't long after Ted Bundy had kind of broken into the Chiamega sorority house and murdered those two sorority sisters in bed. So I was in there, and I thought that when I was watching that's what came to my mind. Is like I had to stop and go, hold on, how close was that to that incident happening? And then obviously that this film came out in 1974. Those murders happened in 1978. But it made me then also go, hold on, did Ted Bundy see that film? Was he kind of, kind of inspire him to go and choose a sorority house? And then you get caught up in the whole kind of, life versus fantasy and, do these films kind of provoke or not? Which is, I'm not going to get into that conversation. I
was about to say that's too
big a can of worms that I'm just opening up.
Kettle of fish, but a very fun discussion.
Yeah, but but it did strike my. The point I'm raising is the whole Ted Bundy thing was front and center of my mind when I was watching this, because I was like, I wonder how close that was to that happening, which was kind of interesting in of itself.
No, exactly. It's always that sort of thing of tying the things together, but whether or not, I mean, it's the same as you'll get in an evolutionary sense, you'll get the Atrax robustus, which is a form of the funnel web spider. You'll get that in South America, a similar spider. It'll get a coloration of like blue on its abdomen, and you go, oh, maybe it's because they're related somehow, like through generationally, and you go, no, they're actually just evolved in two completely different places for the similar reasons. So it's we look for faces in clouds, I'm sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
The just to answer your question, I don't think it was based on a novel was written after the fact. So my gut reaction and my overall kind of reaction kind of do marry in the sense that I really enjoyed it when I first watched it, and since I've given it like the 24-hour litmus test, it still sits with me, and I do like it. I would go back and watch it, and I would recommend it. I am keen also to see what Blumhouse does in this new version of it as well. I feel like it's the sort of movie that could be worth a revisit. To
probably watch the 2006 version as well.
Yes, I do want to. For good or ill. Go there and see how that one sits as well. But it'll be interesting. Cool. Any last words before we bow out on this one, buddy?
No, just hoping everyone has a very Merry Christmas.
Yes, it'd be black and bloody.
You'll be dreaming of a white Christmas on Black Christmas.
Ooh.
Oh no, again.
Not again.
But
not again.
No, cool. I just want to thank you for again enlightening me to another brilliant film.
I know I'm doing that a lot. I am enjoying throwing these ones out to you. It's interesting to see your reaction to these kind of classics around the 70s and 80s period. It's always a pleasure to be on board, Richard. And
always
on that,
glad to be on board, Captain.
Oh, hello. And on that note, we should bow out. Thank you once again, podcasters, for tuning in and listening to us ramble on about these classic horror films. Let us know your thoughts if you enjoyed the original film, and if you're listening to this after the Blumhouse movie has come out, let us know your thoughts on that one too. Until then, I'm your host for the podcast series. My name, once again, Saul Muerte, and I was joined by the delectable Mr. Lovegrove. Goodbye.
Fare thee well, listeners.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.